All right, TikTok. This is the fifth time I'm recording this, and it doesn't seem to want me to record anything biblical tonight. So I'm on to you, TikTok. This is the fifth time, and I'm really determined to talk about Jesus. Hello, everybody. Maraya and Shalom. This video is all about Jesus. Yes, Hamashiach, Jesus, the one whom we love, our Adonai, our Elohim. All right, I'm going to talk about biblical Jesus, not traditional Jesus. Why? Because friends and relatives are accusing me of being racist when I talk about Jesus. I'm not. I'm saying that the concept of the white Jesus is twisting how we see Jesus. Jesus is not in the eye of the beholder. Jesus is a Jewish man operating in a Roman occupied Israel. He's a Jew from the tribe of Judah, and he practiced everything Jewish because he never practiced anything Christianity. It was not yet invented at that time. Invented, yeah. That was not how the apostles wanted Christianity to be, but they didn't want to be persecuted as well, so it kind of evolved into something weird. That is not the real church. The real church that the apostles established were home churches. Things were mostly in churches, or the ecclesia was more on inside the house. People would converge to people's house. They would sit down, talk about it, celebrate Sabbath together. They did celebrate Sabbath. But when Constantine sat down, suddenly, nope, we're not going to put Sabbath. We're going to say Sunday because it's the day of the sun god. We'll say Jesus was the sun god. He's not. He's not. He's more than that. He is more than his creation. The sun is his creation. He is not the sun. He is the son. Get it? Now, a lot of our depictions of Jesus is either he's wearing rags or he's wearing a white robe with a red sash. That's medieval picturing, and the robe or the rags part isn't quite. Joseph and Mary are from the tribe of Judah. They're mostly merchants and artisans, okay, in the first century. Now they're everything and everywhere. I'm from the tribe of Judah too, so anyways, they were middle class at best, but they're not poor. You needed money to get to Bethlehem. So if they had money for an inn, then they had money, period. And census wasn't exactly a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day thing. You were there until a census was finished counting you, and it might take days and days. So in fact, they were there for 2 years because remember, Herod wanted to kill all the baby boys 2 and below. Now, when it came to the upper room, how the houses were in that time were a little different, okay? So most of the messy stuff were downstairs. The kitchen, preparation area, the animals were kept inside at night so they won't be stolen outside. That was their manger. Okay, so it's not exactly in a Sukkoth tent or, wrapped in leaves hut in the middle of winter. It was summer. The Levitical shepherds had to be out, therefore it's summer. And they were the ones called by the angels to minister to the ultimate Passover lamb. And who's that? Jesus. So when they got to the inn, it was implied that it's their relative, but either it's a relative or not, they couldn't stay in the upper room. Maybe it was really full, or maybe Mary just really cannot get up there. Because remember, there isn't exactly safety requirements and stairs. So whatever, she gave birth in the downstairs room. Because remember the apostles, they celebrated Pesach or Passover in the upper room. And Martha, Mary, and everyone else was downstairs preparing for them. So, Jesus isn't poor. And the 3 wise men who came when he was 2 years old, what would you give when the heavens tell you that the ruler of the whole world would be born here and you would go there to him? Wouldn't you ransack your whole house, your whole kingdom, and give him everything you have, even at least half of what you have, to give him if we're going to put this in the context of Solomon, remember Solomon's tribute was 666 talents of gold every year. So let's say they just gave him a year's worth of gold. That's still in the millions, 666 talents or bushels or a lot. It's a lot of money. So when they fled to Egypt, it's first class, baby. It's first class. And when the woman who was bleeding for years touched him, touched the hem of his garment. So he had fringes. It's not hem, it's fringes. The fringes of your garment. So he's a bit decorated. He doesn't wear rags or plain clothes. I would imagine that that time it was really colorful. Okay, because he had money, which means he could buy colorful clothing. Because when you had money, your fabrics were dyed. Okay, so he would be. I'm imagining the correct historical Jewish Jesus would have been wearing something a little more colorful, maybe, like channeling his inner Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat colored. We don't know. But anyways, he was 30 years old. So I love Jonathan Rumi of The Chosen, superb actor. But come on, couldn't they have gotten somebody like 30 years old? Maybe Peter was around his age, but the rest of the apostles were supposed to be younger. Maybe higher teens or lower 20s. Maybe it's the reason why they were always bickering. And maybe bantering too. But anyway, so a lot of things we get wrong about Jesus. Okay, so I would think this man has more like a charisma to him. One of those things that you just can't put your finger on. Because why would people just stop and stare and listen to him from across the room when he enters? You need that certain confidence to you. You can't be just like the meek and humble lamb that you are. You can be meek and humble, but you have that presence. I don't know if it's the godly presence or we don't know. But what we do know, there were descriptions of him from, I think, Josephus or Pliny, that he had brown hair, dark brown hair, and brown eyes, and brown skin, because he's from the line of David, and David has brown skin. David ain't white. I'm not being racist. I'm just saying that we have to look at the context of the Jewish Jesus, who is an Israelite in a Roman-occupied place. But he practiced everything Jewish. Okay, so he practiced Passover, not Easter. He never gave thanks to Eostre. Remember, he never worshipped Satan and any of the small Elohims. And the moment we participate in Easter, Saturnalia, and all those, Halloween, I know they were harmless fun. Even I had so much fun. I planned all those. I like giving away parties, especially when my dogs were involved. And now I realize, OMG, those were idolatrous behavior. I'm not trying to condemn you. I'm trying to wake you up because the hour is near. You don't believe me? Don't you feel? I don't know. I feel like something's gonna happen and it's very soon, and it's our fault because we keep doing this to ourselves. Most man-made disasters or most natural disasters are actually man-made, and now we're about to commit an AI disaster, not to mention school shooting disaster. That's very, very, very man-made. But anyways, I know it's cliche for you all to say turn to Jesus. I did, and I don't use any church to do that because even I want to strangle some people in church. So what I did, where am I gonna get all this knowledge, understanding? Back to its source. It's the reason why God gave us the Bible, mistranslated as it is. What you do is you read different translations and you compare until you find that sweet spot. Oh, maybe it's more like this. And you pray about it because the Holy Spirit will give you that understanding. Bible podcast also helps because there are some words that I just don't understand, even in the English form. So, there. Thank you, everybody. Marayaw and Shalom.